Hi, Chris Walker here. Today I'd like to talk to you about you and the world, your ego, your body, your mind and your vision, the four elements that can change in a human being and the four elements we must work with when we're working with the sort of Rubik's Cube of human development. The first thing is to say that your ego can change if you really want it to. Now, we can't live with it and we can't live without it. The ego is an essential part of life. But when you hear yourself saying the words like got to and should or ought to or have to, you know your ego has become bogged in the sand, and this becomes brittle. A bogged ego becomes so because of pride or fear, and this is the first link in self-awareness, to be able to develop a sense of adaptability where there's no place to stand with an ever-growing identity, so an ego that expands with your vision. The second element of change is your body. It's hard to do good if you don't feel good, and a body health goes a long way to the core of feeling good. What we eat, how we sleep, who we sleep with, and how we wake can determine the underlying experience of being alive and available. Mind can change. We have 6 senses, and those senses feed information to our brain, and our brain translates those experiences that we get, those signals we get from the outer world, and causes them to be our response to life. Now, if we're lazy and the mind can interpret life any way it wants, we'll interpret into 2 groups, pleasure or pain. And then we will respond with an egocentric sense of, if it's pain, I want to defend myself. If it's pleasure, I want more of it. So the mind, with the mind, we have the ability to either misinterpret or interpret, or repeatedly and habitually interpret the world any way we want. And I think it's really important to recognize the need to rewire the processes that interpret the world and can see the world, especially if we're talking about becoming a more evolved leader, a leader in bigger things. Finally, vision. Now, vision is the place that I call the big why. Vision can actually change mind, body, ego, or as we call it in normal language, mind, body, spirit. Spirit is the ego. So a vision can change and cause the mind and body and ego to move. And this is a really important ingredient of the matrix that causes us to be a human being, to have a big vision and an expanding vision. We'll talk about that a bit more in a minute. So let's talk about ego, how to change your ego. Your ego can become a stand you make in the world where you think you are right and others are wrong. So if you're in an organization or a meeting, you go, those guys over there are making a mistake and I've got the answer to all their mistakes. You've become an egotist. And this egotist is basically a terrorist, a fundamentalist, and it's not adapting. And nobody responds to a righteous individual who is stuck in their thinking. So what we want to do is reduce the stress that we give the world by not being so righteous. Now, there's 2 ingredients to this: what you think and how you think. When you invest in yourself, you might invest a lot in what you think, but it's how you think is where we have the greatest opportunity. Let's look at that. There's 2 ingredients, clarity and adaptability. Adaptability comes from how you think, and clarity comes from what you think. And I think both of those areas need to be worked on in order to create a sense of inspiration at work. The body. There are 4 elements that we can focus on when we change the body. And these are very interesting because quite often people focus on 1 or 2 of them and forget the others, and therefore create unsustainable body change. The body is filled with memories, filled with chemicals that have come from memories. And so therefore we need to create a holistic approach to a body change. 12% of the body's change process will be mental, 35%, only 35% will be dietary, 25% will be exercise, let's not overcook that one, but 28% of your body change will be an environmental one. And that's a most underestimated element of human development. The mind. So the question is, in mentally, are you on track? If you're inspired, doing what you love and loving what you do, you can say you are on track. If you're motivated, which means working for someone, doing what someone else loves and being rewarded so that you can take the money and go and do what you love, you're in a fairly difficult place to have mental health. But you can. Next one down is being controlled, which means in an environment that controls the culture and behavior by reward and punishment. And that's called cultural conformity. And I'm dead set believe it's hard to have mental health in all 7 areas of life in that environment. And finally, the no choice got to space, which is bipolarism, suicidal, violent, fight, flight, challenged, stressed individual will have no choice. If they don't work, they won't get paid. If they don't get paid, they have no life. It's a prison mentality. They require huge supervision, and it's very difficult. Now let's look at what the corporate model sometimes introduces to you to give you mental health, which is completely upside down and cocked up. They have a corporate vision with their corporate values. They ask for corporate results, and oh yeah, by the way, on the end of it, what are your values? Stupid. Absolutely ridiculous. No human being can function in a mentally healthy way in that environment. Here's the way I've designed it. It's where it all works hand in hand. Where are your values leading you? Where is the company going? Where are you going? Where are the corporate values leading? And how can you link the 4 together? And that's what I do in the loyalty, commitment, motivation process that I apply to teams and organizations to build cultures of human potential. Changing your mind requires 4 things. You need to be personally inspired, which means to know what makes your world go round, to do it, turn up at work already fulfilled, and don't ask work to fulfill you. That's a cop out. In other words, turn up. You need to know your vision. You must know your own personal vision and have a personal plan. This is the key to being happy, resilient, healthy, and nice to be around, quite frankly. The company has to be inspired, and a company to be inspired needs a balanced vision, 7 areas of vision, 7 areas of life covered, so that we can hook our coat hanger onto the coat rack that they create. We can link and emotionally engage in the vision of a company that's inspired. Finally, we'll sabotage anything we can't link to our highest values. So it's really healthy to find your highest value. We call that your purpose. So if we're inspired in vision and the company's inspired with vision, and we link those things together, we will be mentally on track. Let's talk about vision now very quickly to finish this video. Firstly, change the ego. Your ego is essential, but it can hold you back. So we develop a sense of development in the ego. Cellular, your body holds memory. So we release some of those memories and open up the tissues. We do a little detox. The environment, the most overlooked component of change. We adapt the environment to change. Mentally, we've just talked about that, about how important it is to revalue the values and set prioritizations. Finally, and the next step, and most importantly, the vision. Now the ground is soft, the weeds are removed, and the grass is fertilized, and we're ready to create a new imagination, a new possibility for you. The next one is self-talk. What you think about, you bring about. You go in the direction of your dominant thought. And when we create a new direction, we need new dominant thoughts. We can't allow ourselves to be our worst coach. We have to be our best coach. When we climb Mount Everest, we're alone. When we run a running race, we're alone. When we lead, we're alone. Those thoughts inside your head can be controlled by no one but you. Finally, bring it home. Do you believe you have a soul? Do you believe in a higher power greater than you? Well, when all those 5 things are done, so 6 things are done, and you're ready to step out, manifestation begins. And manifestation is basically asking the universe, God, or your soul, or whatever energy you believe in greater than you, to participate with you in creating a future. And this is where trust and belief comes in of something greater than yourself. Yes, this is Chris Walker, and I believe that we can create personal change at a level that will actually change